at night. The day behind him has been long, filled with small struggles, quiet disappointments, unfinished thoughts. The world outside has already fallen silent. The streets are empty, the house is dark. He enters his room, removes his coat, and sits alone in the dim light. His body is tired, but his mind refuses to rest. Thoughts wander through the darkness. Moments from the day, words spoken, mistakes remembered too clearly. Regrets surface quietly when the world finally grows still. Then something changes. Not a sound, not a movement, but a presence. A feeling that the silence in the room is no longer empty. The man slowly lifts his head, and there, in the corner of the room, stands something he cannot fully understand. Not entirely a man, not entirely a shadow. Something darker, something ancient, a demon. The demon does not threaten him. He does not move closer. Instead, he speaks with strange calmness, as if he has come not to frighten, but to reveal something inevitable. And he says, "I bring you a message about your life." The man remains silent, and the demon continues. "This life you are living now, every moment of it, every joy, every sorrow, every mistake, you will live it again. Not once, not twice, but again, and again, and again, forever. Everything will return. The same streets he walks each day, the same faces he knows, the same fears that follow him, every humiliation he wished to forget, every regret he wished had never happened, every decision, every pain, even this very moment, in this quiet room, it will all return, exactly the same, again, and again, and again, for all eternity." The demon watches him carefully, because this is the true weight of the message. How would a man respond to such a revelation? Would he fall to the ground in despair? Would he curse the demon for bringing such unbearable news? Would he cry out that his life contains too many errors, too many failures, too many moments he wishes he could erase? Or perhaps something else could happen. Perhaps the man would slowly rise. Perhaps he would look at the demon, not with fear, but with recognition. And perhaps he would say, "You are not a demon, you are a god. For never have I heard anything greater." For a man who could accept such a fate, a man who could embrace the endless return of his life, would have achieved something extraordinary. He would no longer wish to escape his past. He would no longer dream of another life. He would have learned to love his life exactly as it is, not despite its suffering, but including it. And this thought, this terrible, magnificent thought, was one of the greatest challenges my mind ever came up with, because this question reveals something terrifying. Most people believe they fear death, but that is not the truth. Death ends the story. What truly terrifies them is repetition. To wake again in the same life, the same doubts, the same anxieties, the same restless thoughts that return in the quiet hours of the night, the same days that feel empty, the same mistakes, the same regrets, again and again and again. And so the question is no longer what the demon asked the man. The real question is far more dangerous. If a demon entered your room tonight, if he stood beside your bed and told you that every moment of your life would return eternally, every joy, every failure, every fear you have ever carried, would that knowledge crush you? Would it fill you with despair? Or would it awaken something inside you, something stronger than fear? Because the man in that room begins to understand something. The demon is not there to torment him. He is not there to punish him. The demon has come to measure him, to weigh his soul, to ask a single terrible question. Is your life something you would choose, again and again, for all eternity? I did not arrive at this thought in clarity or peace. It came to me in a moment of solitude, during a walk in the mountains in the summer of 1881 near a silent lake, where a great rock stood before me like a pyramid. There, without warning, the idea seized me, not as a gentle insight, but as something heavy, almost unbearable. It was not merely a thought, but a question that pressed itself upon my entire being. What if this life, exactly as it is, must be lived again and again, in every detail, for all eternity? Not a similar life, not a better one, not a redeemed version shaped by hope or divine justice, but this very life, each moment of joy, each failure, each hesitation, each pain, each fleeting triumph, returning endlessly unchanged. This is what I later called the greatest weight. For nothing could be more demanding than to imagine that every action, every choice is not a singular event, but something that must be affirmed eternally. At first I recoiled from this thought. It seemed to me the most terrible of all possibilities. No doctrine could feel more oppressive, more suffocating, for it strips away every illusion that man has used to comfort himself. The hope of a final resolution, the belief in progress towards some ultimate redemption, the idea that suffering will be justified in another world, all of this collapses. There is no beyond, no final escape, no divine correction. There is only this life, repeating. And yet, precisely in this terror, I began to recognize something else. For if one could endure such a thought, if one could confront it without turning away, then it would demand a transformation of the highest order. It would require not resignation but affirmation, not mere endurance but a profound and unconditional yes to existence. This is why I came to understand the eternal recurrence not merely as a horrifying possibility but as the highest formula of affirmation. To embrace it is to desire nothing more than this life itself, exactly as it is, without subtraction, without exception. It is to affirm not only joy but suffering, not only success but failure, not only strength but weakness, for these are not opposites that can be separated, they belong to one another. Whoever desires the highest joy must also be willing to accept the deepest pain, for the one does not exist without the other. This insight was not given to me abstractly. My own life was marked by illness, by long periods of suffering and recovery. It was in these cycles of sickness and convalescence that I came to understand the intimate relation between pain and strength, between despair and vitality. There are moments when life appears unbearable, when one is tempted to reject it entirely, and yet there are also moments of such intensity, such clarity, that they seem to justify everything that came before. It is in these moments that one glimpses the possibility of affirming life as a whole. The eternal recurrence demands precisely this, that one weigh one's life not in fragments but as a totality. It asks whether one could will the repetition of all things, not selectively, not conditionally, but completely. And in doing so, it overturns the entire tradition that has dominated Western thought for centuries. The Platonic and Christian belief in a fixed eternal being beyond the world is replaced by something far more dynamic, a world of becoming, of constant creation and destruction without final purpose or ultimate rest. In this, I found myself aligned with the ancient thinker Heraclitus, who understood that all things are in flux, that stability is an illusion, and that existence itself is a kind of tension, a play of opposing forces. Life is not something static. It is movement, struggle, transformation. It is not defined by what it is, but by what it becomes. And yet within this endless becoming there is also a form of recurrence. Patterns return, forces repeat. The same configurations arise, again and again. Thus, becoming itself takes on the character of being, not as something fixed, but as something eternally returning. From this perspective, the world reveals itself as a kind of play, an ongoing process, without final justification. It creates and destroys, builds and dissolves, without moral intention or ultimate goal. This is what I have called the innocence of becoming. There is no guilt in existence, no cosmic judgment, only the ceaseless unfolding of forces. But this realization carries with it a profound challenge, for if everything returns, then nothing is excluded, not even the lowest, the most trivial, the most contemptible aspects of existence. The smallest man returns as surely as the greatest. The moments of weakness return alongside the moments of strength. This thought, more than any other, filled me with a deep unease, for it confronts us with the totality of what we are precisely here that the possibility of transformation arises. For the eternal recurrence is not meant to paralyze, but to awaken. It forces one to confront the question, is this a life you can affirm? Not once, not conditionally, but eternally. It demands that one become the kind of being who can answer this question with a yes. This is the origin of what I call Amor Fati, the love of fate. Not the passive acceptance of what happens, but the active willing of it. To love one's fate means to desire that everything be as it is, and to embrace it as necessary. It is to see one's life not as something imposed, but as something one would choose again and again. In this way, the eternal recurrence becomes not a doctrine of despair, but a test of strength. It measures the extent to which one has overcome resentment, regret, and denial. It asks whether one can stand before existence itself and affirm it without reservation. To do so is not easy. It requires a revaluation of all values, a departure from inherited beliefs, and the courage to create meaning where none is given. Thus, the eternal recurrence is not simply a cosmological hypothesis, nor merely a thought experiment. It is a challenge directed at the deepest level of one's being. It is the question of whether one can transform one's life into something worthy of eternal repetition. And in answering this question, one does not merely interpret existence, one reshapes it.